Hello to Yelena's General Assembly class and anyone that's interested in sketching. I am Amelia Altavena. I'm going to be a little backlit for this demo because I have this amazing glowing whiteboard. So a lot of you guys in the General Assembly class have had questions on sketching for UX. So I'm going to do just a little sketching demo just to explain some concepts and answer a few of your questions. So I'll get started. So the first thing that I want to go over is you. Woo, this is you. As you can see, this is a very simple drawing of a person that kind of looks like a snowman. Basically, you don't need to be an artist to sketch. Sketching is not illustration. So illustration, you're making something, you're going to hang it in a gallery, or it's going to go and people are going to look at it and critique it and judge it and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Basically, you're not doing that. The purpose of sketching is to communicate ideas. So you're trying to say, you know, this box needs to go into this circle. The main point of sketching is to communicate. And a lot of times when you're sketching for you. You're not sketching for anyone but you. So one of the big at least one of my general rules is, especially if I'm sketching for myself, I like to keep it simple. So boxes and blobs and basically anything that will help you, articulate your idea. One of my past jobs was a museum exhibit designer, and what we did a lot of the time is we had these floor plans where there would be a thing here and a thing here and a thing here. And what we would do is we would sketch blobs over these floor plans just to say, this could maybe go here, and this could maybe go here, and that could maybe go there. And when I would look back in my notebook, I would understand what these blobs meant because I would add notes. So I would say, like, blob 1, blob 2. So yeah. Basically, you don't need to be an artist. So that's the first thing. So all of you that are hung up on, oh my god, I need to be an amazing, brilliant artist to sketch, you don't. You're communicating ideas to yourself. And sometimes you're sketching to communicate ideas to other people, but the more simple you keep it, the better your ideas will communicate. So don't stress out about being an artist or not being an artist or, however your sketches look. As long as you keep them simple and you're using them to communicate visually, it's great. So yeah, sketching is about making abstract thoughts, so all the thoughts that are sort of floating around in your brain, making those into something visual, so dots or squares or circles or whatever it is. So as you see here, this beautiful work of art, this is to help you and me, so it's all good. One of the other things that's good, besides just sketching and drawing, is, especially if I'm going back into my old sketches, I like to add notes. Like I will add lots of text. I won't be afraid to draw arrows. So sketching in your notebook is definitely good to have, remember that this is a snowman. And this is the Mona Lisa. So notes are good. Don't be afraid to add notes, to add arrows, to add any sort of marker or indication that, this is why you drew the thing that you drew. This is why you drew this blob or whatever it is that you drew. So let me clear this. Go to a new blank sheet. All right. So just kind of a little anecdote. I was playing Pictionary over Thanksgiving. It was me and my boyfriend as a team, and everyone was like, oh my god, Amelia, you know how to draw, so you're going to kick our butts. So basically, we did really well, but not because I knew how to draw. It was actually, so I'll give you an example of one of the Pictionary words. I was actually drawing sushi, so I started drawing these, really beautifully rendered sushis. Ooh, that didn't work. But yeah, I had like, the rolls and the rice and all sorts of and I had, let's see, there's my sushi. I had like shading and I had chopsticks. And I think I had them in rows, and yeah, they were really pretty. And I even had like the tray, and I had the, you know, a little bit of wasabi and the ginger on the side, and it, you know, it was all good. And you know, Pictionary, everyone's yelling stuff out and trying to guess. And for this one, only my boyfriend could guess, and he goes, Chinese beer can soup. So my beautiful rendering of sushi didn't work. So we actually, I think we actually won, not because of all of my beautiful drawings of like these rendered sushi and whatever else we were drawing, but we actually, hang on, I'll just start a new sheet. So he actually drew a horse for one of them, which was this. Oh, which was this. And I think I guessed horse, and we won. So one of the big takeaways of this is keep it simple. I think we also excelled because I think visually, and I'm sure a lot of you as designers or aspiring designers also think visually. So keep it simple. It's very important to keep it simple. So keep it simple. That's one of the big things about sketching. When you're communicating ideas, you don't need to get overly complex. The whole purpose of sketching is so that you can do it very quickly and very easily. So someone asked me about tools of the trade. All right, so just to go over, someone asked me about tools of the trade. So tools. Oh, hey, we're red now. That's cool. Of the trade. So you don't need one of these like really cool fancy whiteboards. This is not necessarily. This could be a tool of the trade, but so my standard tools of the trade, I like to use, and I just have some examples. So I have my standard black moleskin sketchbook, and you know, I have drawings, I have notes. So this is, you know, this is what my sketchbook looks like. My favorite thing to work with, I like these Micron pens. They're really precise. Sometimes I'll add a little bit of shading to my sketches with this. But for the most part, for me, it's really just pens and sketchbook. Another pretty wonderful tool of the trade is whiteboard. So you can have one of these awesome, awesome fancy whiteboards, or you can have just a regular whiteboard. Don't really like chalkboards, but whiteboards are great. They're great for sketching. They're great for getting your ideas out. And there's something about scale, and I'm actually going to go into, because a lot of people were like, can you give us an example of, you know, how you helped a client? So the first project I'll talk about used a whiteboard. So let's start a new sheet. Yeah, so the first project that I'll talk about used a whiteboard. So for sketching, it's kind of whatever you feel comfortable with. So for this particular client, the concepts were really complicated and kind of crazy. So for me, I actually needed to sketch out, it was a wizard that we were designing. So I needed to sketch out like the screens. So I was sketching out like, you know, here's the next button. And I would sketch out, you know, the radio buttons that had each of the little bits of information. And I think I went so far as to sketch like the header and, you know, the title and all of that stuff. And for me, it really helped. It helped solidify some concepts that I was just not getting, because this project was super complicated. This isn't to say that you should always start with sketching out screens. You can start more in the abstract, but for us, we had this room where we had these giant whiteboards, and I was sketching out these screens, and we were able to sit in, you know, myself and the people that I was working with, we were able to sit in these rooms and like kind of meditate on these screens and look at these screens, and we were able to, you know, write notes all over these screens, like this needs to go here and that needs to go there. So there is something about scale and something about working really big. And the other thing about working in Sketch or working on a whiteboard, it's good because it can be very dynamic. Whereas I feel like it's harder to change something on the computer. When you put something on the computer, it can feel very concrete. But when you're sketching, you can make a lot of changes very quickly because there's no stakes. It's a sketch. It's not an actual product. So this was really good. We had we had different colors to symbolize text. We had different colors to symbolize like what buttons were. So the fact that we were able to do this on a large scale, that I was able to sketch these screens and that I was able to mark them up was really great. And it really helped for me get these ideas that were floating around my head, get them into some sort of concrete form that didn't feel permanent, and I was able to do it quickly, and it was a good talking point. It was way easier to talk about the screens and mark them up and make notes. So that was one project where sketching really helped me. Another one. So another project that I was on, and I'm going to show. I'll send you guys the examples of these particular projects in JPEG form. But for the client, they actually had a really good metaphor. They had this very strange UI where, if you imagine a house, so this is actually how they explained it to us. So you have this house that you're building, like you want to build this house. Well, the way that you would build this house in their current product, this is sort of their finished thing. It was actually a TV channel that you'd broadcast your entire network at work. The way that they were currently designing it, it was kind of like what we were calling a database model, where it would almost be like, for this house, you would design things like, I'm going to design a light socket. I'm going to design, a door. And you would do all of these things kind of separately. Like, you wouldn't be looking at this picture of the house. You'd be designing all of these elements, and then in a different part of the UI, you'd have your light socket and door and all of these things. And you were supposed to just sort of throw them together to get this house. Which we just thought having these separated was really hard. It was really hard for users to understand because they had all of these little pieces that made up the house, which was this TV channel. And then they had to go and assemble this house at the end, but they wouldn't know. You wouldn't see this sort of broad sketch of what it looked like. It was a very haphazard model. So what we suggested to them, and the way that we tried to explain this is how we explained to them, why their system wasn't working. So I was drawing all these sort of Tetris piece-looking building blocks for them. So, you have this guy, and you have this guy, and somehow you're supposed to visualize that all these things are supposed to equal a house. But they didn't. It was hard for the customer to see that this is going to then be this. So our idea was, instead of building all of these things separately first, so saying this block goes here, this block goes here, this block goes here, we said, well, why not take the sketch for the house first and, build the blocks sort of as you're assembling the house. So don't do all of this separate. You need to kind of do all of this at once. So I sketched this out onto a whiteboard and kind of explain that, hey, this is what your system is right now. You are designing this light socket and this block and this window, and then you're asked to design this house, and it's not working. So this is how we're proposing it. We're saying this house should be designed roughly kind of first. So you give them the shell, and then you give them all of the pieces that they can put into the shell, rather than designing all of these pieces separately. So this was an example of how sketching just really, really helped hammer an idea home and hammer the idea of, hey, this is why your thing isn't working, and then this is our idea of how we can make it work better. So that was an awesome project for me where sketching just really helped. All right, so the next question that I want to answer is, a few people asked about, okay, so when do I show clients the sketch, or when can I actually use sketches to show clients? So as I was saying in the last project, we actually used our whiteboards and we showed the client, our whiteboard sketches, and they got it and they liked it. The answer to that is that you really have to read your client. You have to, decide if sketching for them is appropriate versus not appropriate. And it can, not that it'll necessarily get you in trouble, but a lot of clients will always see sketches as unfinished products, no matter how beautiful and wonderful and amazing that they are. Sometimes with certain clients, they will see something done in pencil or pen or a whiteboard, and they will see, oh, this is unfinished or dirty, or they don't want to see it and they don't need to see it. So I hate to give sort of this vague answer, but you really do need to read the client and see if they want to see sketches. If you have a kickoff meeting, or if you have an initial meeting with a client, you can definitely ask. So with clients, you need to judge. All right, so I'm going to transition that last thought into the thought about clients, because a lot of you guys were asking, oh, so when can I show my clients all of these amazing sketches? Unfortunately, the answer to that is that there is no actual specific answer to that. Every client is different. Some clients will see sketches and they will always see your beautiful, amazing sketches as unfinished, no matter how polished they are. Some clients are only comfortable with seeing things either on the computer, or I guess on the computer, some sort of computer generated product. So you really need to read the client. If you can have a kickoff meeting, you can ask. You can say, hey, do you like to see process work? Do you like, that'd be a good way to phrase it. Do you like to see sort of the initial concept, the sketches? They might say, oh my God, we love sketches. We love seeing sketches. Sometimes sketches will totally blow a client away, because they're like, oh my gosh, you can draw, or oh, this is so cool that you can articulate your thoughts on the paper. But once again, there are those clients that will say, oh, this is dirty and it's unfinished and I don't want to see it. So unfortunately, there's really no prescribed yes or no to that question. You really do need to gauge the client. I'd lean towards for the really like super professional clients, sometimes it's just safer to keep the process stuff to yourself if you want to play it safe. For a lot of startups that are kind of nitty gritty, they're just trying to figure out their product. Sketching might even be part of your design process, where you're leading them through a whiteboard exercise, or they want to be a part of the process, in which case you need to sketch with them. It's just how it happens. During meetings, sometimes I have to sketch just so I can remember all the things that are happening at the meeting. But once again, it's definitely client by client basis. Use your best judgment, and if you can sketch and they like it, then great, because I think it's a great way to communicate ideas, especially really early on. So if you can, ask them, or just try to get a good read on it and sketch if you can and show them if you can. But everyone's different, so that's a little spiel on clients. All right, so the sort of last point that I'll answer, a lot of people were asking, so what can you teach me? How can I get better? How can I improve? The answer to that is Pretty simple. So the first thing, practice. And I feel like I got good at sketching by drawing on all of my homework in the margins of every piece of paper that I ever turned in middle school and high school. So I drew everywhere, and it necessarily wasn't good. You can draw people that you see on the BART. You can draw, you can take notes and add drawings to your notes during work. So draw as much as you can. That's really the only way to get better, is just to keep doing it. A lot of it is muscle memory and how your hand remembers how to draw all of these things. So that's one kind of big thing. The other thing that I will say is observe. And when I say observe, one of the things about drawing, especially drawing from life or drawing things that you see, it's noticing the way things look. So when we as artists originally start, we draw from life, we draw figures, we draw people. So when you observe, you notice the way that, in your brain you say, oh, this is the way that this chair looks. This chair has, wheels. This isn't a very good chair. But I'm observing, I'm looking at this chair, I can see that it has this curve. I also notice that it has, armrests. It's black, it's made out of mesh. Sketching is about observing and then, regurgitating your observations. And sometimes it's from the brain, so you're observing your imagination. I'm thinking right now about a dog, because I'd really love one. He's got an awesome nose. And a tongue. So observe. So if you want to draw from life, that's great, and I fully support that. But you can draw whimsically, and that kind of brings me to my last point about drawing and sketching and cartooning is simple. So I know I said this, and I've been hammering it home, but keep it simple. You're not illustrating, you're not creating the Mona Lisa, you are trying to articulate your ideas. So keep it very simple. Remember my beautiful sushi rolls, my Chinese beer can soup. We didn't win, but Jeff's beautiful horse with legs and ears, apparently that's a horse. That's how we won. So keep it really simple. You are just trying to articulate your ideas on a paper, and you're trying to help yourself for later. So keep it simple, practice, observe. Those would be my 3 takeaways. And going back to the people that are like, oh, I'm artistically challenged, should I even bother? Yes, you should definitely bother, because the more sketching becomes an acceptable thing that we all do as designers, hopefully the better, the more comfortable clients will be with it. So if we can make clients comfortable with seeing this part of the process, or even having us do part of this process, it's awesome. We want more people sketching. We want this to be a normal, natural part of the process. So practice, observe, keep it simple. Anyway, I guess this is just thank you, and thanks for listening. I hope I didn't bore you. And if you have any more questions, feel free to ask me or email me. I think Yelena shared my comic site, which is sketchforever.com. So there's hopefully a lot more finished pieces on there. But all those pieces came from sketching and thumbnailing and really crappy basic sketches to start. So don't be afraid to sketch, don't be afraid to practice, and have fun.